All right, YouTube, I'm overjoyed to announce, of course, as many of you probably already know, I'm assuming that more of the American audience are just sort of getting up, or you've been up for a while, you're chugging some coffee. The UK has voted to leave the European Union. Excellent news. At the beginning of the night, it looked like they weren't going to do it. People were really nervous, and then increasingly, the results came out. There was higher turnout in places where the Remain voters were at a minority. There was less turnout in Scotland. Wales sort of went for the Brexit a little bit, and by the end of the night, it became clear. I went to bed because Leave, I think, was ahead by 450,000 votes or something. You could tell that those that wanted to remain were getting increasingly flustered. You want to look at their faces. You could tell that they were upset. They knew what was happening. They knew that they were going to lose. So I just went to bed. I was going to make a video then. I didn't want to jump the gun in case they like rigged the vote in London or something like that. Also, yesterday I had food poisoning. I was fairly ill. I just laid in bed for about 10 hours straight. I had the EU referendum sort of like live feeds on, and I just sort of had it propped up next to me in bed while I writhed around in pain because I was suffering. I feel fine now for the most part. I'm still a little bit, I guess, achy, but I think most of that's because I was actually laying in bed all day. So I think I got to get up, stretch, do some garden work or something like that. It'll be nice to see the sun, unlike yesterday. But yes, the EU referendum moves forwards. The UK has decided to leave, and they've cut the head off the snake. But don't think that this is some great, glorious rest on your laurels victory. For those in the UK as well as Eurosceptics in the rest of the European Union, now's the time to organize and strike harder. Now's the time to get referendums going in all of these other countries so the entire thing just fucking dissolves and leaves just Merkel with a few vassal states that she won't really be able to do anything with. Now is the time to cripple the EU forever. Don't just declare independence from the EU, become your own masters, become independent, become a fully functioning, sovereign, not enslaved state, which is, I mean, that's great for the UK, but look at all the other European nations that are suffering, that are getting flooded with, millions and millions of migrants that they don't necessarily support. They get called racist for opposing the idea that their own workers should suffer because there are people willing to work more cheap. Here in the United States, I've told you before, the EU will never be the United States. It's just not going to happen. You may want it to be. You may want so badly for some great second rise of Europe to become dominant force in the world. It's not going to happen. Your population density is too great. Your resource base is not as high as that of the Americas. It's not going to happen. The UK is one of the most powerful nations on earth despite being a relatively small fucking island along with North Ireland, a little tiny strip of that island. That's basically all the UK is, and yet look at the amount of power economically and militarily that the UK has. Europe doesn't have to be weak, but these countries have to be independent. They have to be able to make rules that are good for their own people. Why shouldn't you compete on a larger world market instead of just sort of saying kumbaya and working together in Europe and ignoring the rest of the world? That's not a way forwards to success. That's just a price-fixing operation for a handful of bankers and corporatists that draw up all the rules in the EU anyway. They're sitting back and being fat and lazy and grafting off all of your cash. So I'm very glad that the UK voted to leave. I have a feeling that the more conciliatory tone of certain people like Carswell and Farage and all of these others last night will change. I have a feeling they're going to begin calling to branch out and try to get referendums moving in these other European states. I have a feeling that they didn't want to call for that right away, just in case they lost. And it was clear right at the beginning of the night, Nigel Farage said, "Oh, I think that Remain's going to edge it." And it didn't happen, of course. In reality, Leave edged it. Or not edged it, but did fairly well. Certainly way, way better than the YouGov thing suggested. I think they were suggesting 52 for Remain, 48 for Leave, which means that Leave would have lost. You wouldn't see another referendum. Nigel would be dead in the ground before it would happen. But now you don't have to worry about that shit because you've already left. Then you've got the Scottish people, some figures from SNP saying, oh, I don't think that another independence vote for Scotland would be good right now. We need to focus on stability. So I guess there's one of the main threats, one of the main worries that people like Cameron were trotting out. Oh, the Scottish will leave. They'll hold another referendum. They'll leave, and you'll become Little Britain. I guess that's not going to happen now, is it? Now, is your economy going to collapse outright? No. Will it be kind of a rocky road for a few months here? Probably. Oh yeah, it will. You might slip into a recession because of the Brexit. But long term, you're going to have a lot more benefit than you do risk. Long term, the UK will do better than any other state in the region probably, because you can actually make your own rules and trade with and partner with countries other than the Europeans. Europe is as dead as a doornail when it comes to productivity, except in Eastern Europe. That's why Merkel and all these others want to bring in Eastern European workers, which hurts the Eastern Europeans too. I don't know why the Polish are so Euro-friendly. You're getting all of your academics and a lot of your best manpower is being drained to Western Europe. Not just the UK, but France and Germany. It's called brain drain. It's an actual term. We studied this shit in anthropology. It happens here in the Americas too. People in Mexico or Central America or something, the skilled individuals, people who you consider them like white collar, highly educated, master's degree, PhD, they come to the United States so they can make 20, 30 times as much money as they can in their home country, and it fucks that country even while it causes social alienation here, even though the person is perfectly lawful and has the fucking double PhD or something. It's a problem. It's perception that matters. It's like these people now whining about the Leave vote. It has nothing to do with your supposedly ironclad facts about how great the EU is. It has to do with the perception. When they started talking about there being so high a turnout and so many postal votes, I was taken aback for a moment. I said, oh, well, all the UK's media kept swearing up and down that more postal votes equaled more Remain. It turns out that was never the case. More postal votes equals more older voters that voted for a Brexit. And here's a case where once again, the same old people that kept fighting in wars over and over in the UK have once again saved their fucking sovereign nation. The young couldn't be bothered to do it. The middle-aged couldn't be bothered to do it. The politicians sure as hell couldn't be bothered to do it. You had to rely on a bunch of geriatric people to save your nation, to come out in large enough numbers in order to do that. And now Merkel must be fuming. She's probably pissing her pants right now. She knows what the economic implications are. The EU is now not long for this world. This just speeds up a process that would have been a lot more drawn out and painful and involved the UK suffering a lot longer and more painfully had they stayed in. So congrats to the United Kingdom. Very good result. It's the ultimate happening. It really is economically. Certainly, as far as European politics go, as far as UK's culture goes, very big happening. Even last night, from this side of the pond. One last thing. From this side of the pond, it often looks like the UK's population is just called racist if they don't want mass immigration, if they think that Rotterdam was a problem, or Rotherham, or whatever it's called. I can't get those two right. Was a problem that, having Islamic rape gangs in the country isn't a good thing for your culture. Oftentimes, the BBC and all these other fuckwads keep saying, oh, they're fucking racists, fucking far-right nationalist piece of shit Nazis and stuff, which makes no sense, but that's, I guess, what's claimed. But now, you had people last night, live on air, multiple people, and not just a bunch of Leave campaigners, but some of the hosts of the show itself. Oh yeah, well, they're going to have to stop calling people, I guess Labour will have to stop calling people racist for not agreeing that there should be unfettered mass migration. And what was pointed out is the Labour Party no longer represents Labour. So there's a problem. The Conservative Party is no longer conservative. That's a bit of a problem. I would think that people like Cameron really deep inside would have wanted to vote to leave. I would think that the job of being prime minister would be easier if you didn't have to deal with all the EU bullshit. But now David Cameron's gone. He's resigning. Good. He's a serial fart holder. He should have known better. If he should have, hell, he should have just taken a hands-off approach, said, oh, I'm not campaigning for anybody. You do what you want. I'll continue on as prime minister, and I'm okay with whatever it is. He should have expressed, if he was smart, if he was a good tactician within politics, he would have come out first and he would have said, I appreciate the good things that the EU has done for us. But then he would have come out immediately after and said, but I also understand the frustration because I'm frustrated with the way they work too, trying to stonewall me. And then he would have taken a hands-off approach and done nothing. And he wouldn't have given a shit. He'd still be prime minister right now, but he's resigning. He's gone. Get Nigel Farage as prime minister. Put him in. He's got common sense, or Carswell. Nigel Farage isn't just famous in the UK. Everybody over here knows his face. Everybody over here knows him as that dude with the funny smile that drinks and smokes and kind of talks down to people he feels are traitors. We respect Nigel Farage generally over here. And I think for the United States, it's almost an emotional event because the UK is sort of seen, I know it's a meme too, but the UK really is sort of like dad to the United States. And then France is sort of like mom. And so when things are going well for the UK and France, we generally feel pretty good about it because we don't have a fucking problem with either country. Even though that one Brit did try to kill Donald Trump, I guess he was autistic, so, and he didn't actually get a shot off. Just some fucking lunatic, if you ask me. Should just behead him and throw him in the river or something. But the UK is basically like dad to the United States, and France is like mom. So these two nations, and Morocco is like little brother, by the way. I know you may not want to believe it, but it's the first country we had a treaty of friendship with. So Morocco actually gets in there, and then Poland is like best friend since Cold War. These are sort of the nations that I certainly feel very positively towards. I know some people might disagree. They might put it in a different order. I don't, though. The UK is our true greatest ally. Not that fucking little strip of desert in the Middle East. It's the UK and France and these other nations that have stuck by us for a great deal of time. So I'm glad. I hope the UK soars well above Germany, just fucking knocks them out. I hope that Merkel has a nervous breakdown, and I hope the German economy is crushed underfoot. Because I don't have any respect for the Germans at this point. The fact that they haven't overthrown their government, I can't respect you. I can't respect you for suffering under these conditions and doing jack shit about it. I'm sorry about that. I know that there are Germans that really oppose Merkel. They oppose them. Okay, I understand that. I don't have a problem with you. But as far as the culture itself, it is so absolutely suppressed. How did you get to that point? I don't even understand it. Merkel's some crazy East German fucking quasi-Marxist, and people there actually support her. I don't get it. But in the UK, they went the other way. They said, fuck this shit, and left the EU. Good! They'll do well in the next few years. The UK will do a lot better than any of the EU states. That's about all. Peace out.